There's a forgotten island, resembling an Eden. Where wise men still sing of strange animals and mythical creatures. A place like none other. A treasure chest of biodiversity. Indonesia is a group of islands born out of the intense volcanic activity in the region, home to an incredible range of biodiversity. From Komodo to Borneo, Francis Le Guen and his crew strike out in search of age-old traditions and prehistoric animals.
Jean-Baptiste, run! Run, JB, run!
Life forms aren't equally distributed around the Earth. I know a place in the Sunda Islands where the Creator seems to have lingered.
Why such biodiversity of marine life in Indonesia?
You can't go anywhere in Indonesia without being in sight of a volcano. That one's magnificent. They're all around us. Obviously, they have a great influence on the ecosystems and life forms of the region. The other passengers on the ferry think I'm very funny. They don't often hear people talking like this.
The crew quickly runs up against a language barrier, and for this kind of trip, you need a guide. Francis has an appointment with Thierry Robinet, who's lived here for 20 years. Now all we need to do is find him.
It's chaos here.
Our starting point is the port of Labuan Bajo in the western part of Flores Island. A wooden schooner will be the crew's home for 3 weeks. The abundance of nature in Indonesia harbors many a mystery. Although numerous land expeditions have been made to explore this biodiversity, few people have ventured beneath the ocean surface. And yet, the key to this incredible profusion of life forms undoubtedly lies somewhere within these waters. To begin, the crew prepares for a dive near Tatawa Island.
What does the word Tatawa mean?
Bahasa Indonesia. Ya, kita mulai lagi. Tawa. Tawa.
It means to smile.
That's right, smiles, laughter.
Tatawa, a name that sounds reassuring, and yet that's far from being the case.
The seas around Komodo aren't for leisure divers. They're very unpredictable. The current can easily change direction in 5 minutes. It's going to get stronger because apparently now it's only 3 knots. Here we're at the exact point where the Indian Ocean and the Pacific come together. The two oceans blend, and we're extraordinarily lucky to be able to dive here and see what happens.
There are 2 tanks?
Yeah, I'm taking care of it.
Nobody's going to take any risks, okay? A film is not worth a man's life. Do you all hear me?
Definitely. This is another first, I think.
You know, not far from here, there are pearl fishermen. And every year, 25 of them disappear.
25 divers disappear right here? And they're using diving suits?
Yeah, same as us, more or less.
Just to get you in the mood, you know.
Well, it's better to know.
Indonesia is no picnic.
For safety, the surface crew lowers a transmitter into the water. This will let Francis stay in constant contact with the boat via hydrophone. Just a few meters below the surface, the divers encounter cold currents that contrast sharply with the tropical heat. Deep flows of water empty into this turbulent zone. They carry minerals necessary for the growth of plankton, the first link in the food chain. At the gates of the abyss, in the icy grip of a powerful current, the crew struggles to cling onto the rocks.
And all of a sudden, there it is, at the base of the vortex. The Great Pacific intermingles with the Indian Ocean, their waters mutually enriched by living species. And while the whirlpool forms up on the surface, a black hole in the skin of the sea, things get tricky underwater.
What's so terribly dangerous about these dives are the vertical currents that can suck the divers relentlessly down to the bottom. Sticking close together, the crew spots a crevice in the rock and slips in to explore. Sheltered from the current, flower-like anemones live alongside scorpionfish. And two young white-tipped sharks lurk beneath a clump of Acroporus.
Attention crew. Come up immediately. Come up immediately. I repeat, come up immediately. Come up immediately. Come up now.
Easier said than done. Once more, the current has us pinned against the reef. The surface is in sight, but it seems impossible to make these last few meters. We're almost out of breath.
Pretty strong, isn't it? It was an amazing moment when we saw the whirlpool appear above us. It was like looking at a river from the inside, but the whole thing under the sea.
It's really impressive.
You see that spot there? Well, imagine being underneath it. I swear it's crazy. It's like being underneath a jacuzzi. I freaked out at one point because I didn't know where I was going. It's like being in a washing machine.
It's like spinning around.
Then I thought, what are we doing here? We keep on, we go closer, we start over.
A natural boundary between the two oceans, these fearsome currents form an impassable barrier for certain species. They've isolated a legendary monster in this realm of bare mountains. The triangle formed by Komodo, Pada and Rinca is home to a creature endemic to these islands. With its look of a prehistoric carnivorous monster, this living dinosaur hasn't evolved in the past 140 million years. This giant lizard has always aroused fear among people. Its reputation as a man-eater earned it the nickname of the Komodo dragon. The biggest of these giant lizards can grow up to 3 meters and weigh 200 kilos. Sitting at the top of the food chain, the Komodo lizard is a mortal predator. A ruthless killer that's unrivaled on its territory. If its prey is too big and the lizard can't manage to break its spine, a simple bite will do. Its mouth is infected with virulent bacteria which provoke blood poisoning and death in less than 24 hours. Rare footage, but we narrowly escaped disaster that day.
Thierry, warn me if there's anything. I can't see a thing. I mean, if there's another lizard coming from the left or right.
Run down! I don't believe this!
Jaga di sini.
Despite the risks, on the other side of the island, the underwater crew has a go at observing the creature in the water. The lizard is reputed to be a good swimmer.
For Renee and I, it's a very emotional moment as we swim alongside this antediluvian monster whose behavior in the water is completely unknown. But very soon, my fear gives way to admiration for this animal that is so unique in terms of evolution. I even feel compassion for this creature that mainly just wants to reach the mangroves as quickly as possible.
Despite its swimming capacities, the lizard isn't strong enough to overcome the powerful currents encircling its territory. They keep it isolated from the rest of the world, making the species unique to Indonesia. So the currents are responsible for the evolution of wildlife on land. But what's their influence in the water? Here, where the Pacific and Indian Oceans meet, the currents are no longer an obstacle. They work like conducting fluids. This is a spot where two different identities, two marine ecosystems, blend and enrich each other. In a few kilometers, a world green with plankton and teeming with life gives way to a limpid realm of transparency. There are over 1,000 species of fish and 250 types of coral living here, 10 times more than the average found in the world's oceans. The further you go from this spot, the more the level of marine biodiversity drops.
From transparent blue to nutritive green. Never has the idea of diving between two waters seemed so true to me. There appears to be an invisible boundary in the depths of these seas, two worlds of color, each harboring their own specific animal and plant life.
These slopes are strewn with aquatic flowers, and we spot strange-looking animals, annelid worms that seem straight out of prehistoric times, or six-armed starfish. Here, the sea cucumbers look like fruit. They're called sea apples. Almost every species is represented, from clownfish to comatulids. This cousin of the starfish uses its branch-like arms to filter water and also to move around.
I'm enthralled by the profusion of living creatures that span the limits of vegetable, mineral, and animal 20,000 creatures under the sea, including the trumpet fish that's taken on the hue of the volcanic sulfur here.
Little by little, the divers zero in on the invisible frontier of a lost continent. To the west, an emerald world populated with colorful marine flowers that recall the sea species of Asia. And to the east, in the sapphire blue water, a coral barrier that almost looks Australian. It's one of the remaining unexplored territories of the Blue Planet. Each year, marine biologists discover previously unknown species. Albino anemones, trunkfish, not to mention giant oysters.
Forms or colors. Everything is different. Coral, crinoids, nudibranches, brightly colored sea slugs, an entire marine population that has slowly evolved through natural selection, including this unusually large balloonfish that's no doubt never seen a diver before.
The food chain's intact here, from the smallest to the largest. The sea floors are even strewn with the bones of sea mammals, thrown back by local fishermen. They lie here like offerings to the ocean spirit.
Let's take a look at these nudibranchs. They've developed an original means of defense. They feed on hydrozoa, tiny animals a bit like jellyfish, which are poisonous. The nudibranchs recuperate this poison and transfer it to their skin. I find that fascinating. How did this animal discover that eating poisonous hydrozoa means fish will be afraid of being poisoned in their turn and won't prey on them anymore? At the same time, they've developed extraordinary bright colors which convey the message, watch out, I'm poisonous.
How deep down did you find these ones here? 25?
Yeah, 25.
Here you can see the exposed gills or branchia. That's why it's called a nudibranch, which means naked gills.
Two weeks into the expedition, we've encountered several elements that help explain Indonesia's rich biodiversity. Volcanism, the currents and the blending of two oceans have all had an influence. But is this enough to explain the incredible profusion of marine life here? Does life in this archipelago have other miracles up its sleeve? Francis Le Guen's team will travel thousands of kilometers to find out. We head for the east coast of Kalimantan, in the heart of a coral atoll called Kakaban. This is home to a unique example of biodiversity, an adaptation to a changing environment.
We're just arriving at the mysterious lake of Kakaban, which you reach by means of this dilapidated walkway through the forest. Be careful, that part's really unstable. Just beneath us is coral limestone, which has been eroded by the rain. In fact, movements in the tectonic plates have pushed the reef up, leaving a lake suspended 50 meters above sea level. And this lake is full of treasure.
The crew enters a whole new world, a hybrid lake of brackish water diluted by rain, home to seawater species. But when we take a closer look, these jellyfish are acting strangely. Some of them live upside down in shallow parts of the lake. Others move about during the day to absorb the precious sunlight. 4 different species, of which 2 are found nowhere else on Earth. Like the Komodo dragons, these endemic jellyfish were isolated. Only those that were most adapted to this new environment survived, giving rise to a new species. Over the generations in this closed environment with no predators, they lost their defense mechanism, their ability to sting.
In the end, we wonder whether they're actually animals or plants. Thousands of them surround us, pulsing in the midst of time like glass hearts. A vision from the dawn of creation. I have a hard time tearing myself away from this world of suspension.
What force was capable of trapping these animals? Over thousands of years, geological upheavals in the region gave rise to the Kakaban atoll, isolating little by little this marine lake and its inhabitants in the middle. Several species were entrapped by the land. The Earth's convulsions provide a partial explanation for this unique biodiversity. Still, If geology is the cause of a certain endemicity, could it also be responsible for the profusion of species? 200 million years ago, the Earth was made up of two supercontinents. One of them gradually broke up, forming three major continental shelves. Indonesia lies at the crossroads of these three shelves that determine different ecosystems. This is what the great naturalist Alfred Wallace discovered in 1854. He identified this biological fracture, a virtual line cutting across Indonesia from north to south. But Wallace wasn't able to explain it because back in the 19th century, the theory of continental drift didn't exist yet. But today we know that Indonesia lies on the fracture zone. It's at the crossroads of two worlds, two ecosystems that haven't intermingled yet. The Wallace line still marks the boundary between the flora and fauna of Southeast Asia and Oceania. It explains the profusion of species in one zone of the globe. In Mulmurry Bay on Flores Island, the crew prepares for their dive the next day. In the water, they're sure to find traces of these tectonic movements, which are currently still underway.
There's a rock right in the middle of the channel. It's not very wide, and there are lots of other rocks just below the surface we can't see.
Around Roti Island, we search for traces of the 1992 tsunami that devastated the region, claiming more than 1,500 lives.
At the base of the slope, a large rift opens onto a dark cave. The reef here is literally split in two, the visible trace of the 1992 tsunami. What used to be a garden has since become a desert. With each natural disaster, the ecosystem has to regenerate itself. But these reefs are threatened by yet another danger. For a few months now, they've been invaded by a venomous starfish from Australia, the Acontester. It's literally devouring the coral and even the sponges. In time, it will spell the death of the reef. And the solutions adopted by local divers to try and eradicate it are worse still. Each piece carried off by the currents contaminates other islands. Like all echinoderms, this starfish can reproduce itself from just a single cell. Research is underway to try to save the reef. And more often than not, life recolonizes these devastated zones.
On our way up, we have the good luck of encountering the prince of these waters, the biggest fish in the world, like a bearer of good tidings. This young whale shark, which could grow up to 18 meters long, feeds exclusively on plankton. Could these tiny organisms also be responsible for the extraordinary wealth of species? We follow behind the shark even further east in search of answers.
This is the life. There's 3 whales over there, 2 dolphins. This is the life.
After 2 days and 1 night at sea, the expedition heads due east to the furthest extremity of Flores Island, to Lamealera, in search of one of the most isolated ethnic groups in the archipelago. They've managed to keep several of their ancestral traditions alive. But could it be to the detriment of the ecosystem's fragile balance?
Oh, manta. Manta?
Kita manta. Masih lagi manta. Yang besar 100,000 lebih.
The little one's worth 75,000 and the big one about 100,000 rupees.
100,000 rupees is how much?
It's about 8 euros.
Doesn't seem much to us, but for them it's a very fine catch.
Oh, it's huge. It will allow them to live at least a week.
That's good, dried. Do they eat dried bonito?
Yeah, they do.
They use it for curries?
Ambil dia, ambil cepat. Ambil.
It's easy to do the shopping out at sea like this, Indonesian style. For a few rupees, we got 2 fine fresh bonitos.
30,000. Terima kasih.
The size of the manta rays in the fisherman's boat leads us to think the worst. Are they hunting the young ones before they reach maturity? Underwater, things look more optimistic. They don't seem to be heading for extinction. The divers are welcomed by an aquatic ballet. We know almost nothing about these incredible creatures. With open mouths, they feed on plankton floating in the transparent water. The sunlight on the water's surface and nutrients flowing up from the depths make it abundant here.
How did these mantas ever get to be called sea devils? Maybe because fishermen only see their black backs from the surface, but for our divers, it is a moment of pure grace.
The Earth's movements are constantly shaping the Indonesian archipelago. 6,000 of its islands are inhabited. Various populations have little by little taken possession of the scattered bits and pieces of land. These peoples, isolated from one another, perpetuated their traditions. The expedition lands at Lamealera. This village is home to the last community of whale hunters on Earth.
Moments like this are great. Children are always the first to come and greet strangers. I hope we'll be accepted here. But in Indonesia, you always get a great welcome, so I don't think there'll be a problem.
When people work here, they come out in number. They don't stay in their homes. They come out on the beach because there's always something to do with the boats. So everyone comes out, they eat a meal and drink chuak. Chuak, palm wine. And since you're the guest, you're the first one to test it. It's good, eh?
It tastes a bit like palm wine. I drank some in Africa, but this isn't the same. And that tastes like beef. It would never have occurred to me to eat dolphin, but here it's a local custom.
Daun papaya.
This is papaya leaf boiled with whale bones.
That is unusual.
You can smell the whale oil. It's cooked in whale oil.
The Lamealera people came from a little island destroyed hundreds of years ago by a huge volcanic eruption. Their ancestors arrived in small boats which each clan kept, carrying on this traditional hunting practice.
Lumba lumba.
Yes. Lumba lumba, yes.
Lumba lumba. En fait, c'est un dauphin.
It's a long-snouted dolphin, I think. Obviously, many people hate to think of dolphins being killed, but it's important to understand that here it's a means of survival, and these people can hardly be accused of overfishing. Industrial trawlers catch 4,000 dolphins every night simply by accident in their drift nets. Now that's a real tragedy. I'd much rather see this knowing that the food will help all these children to grow and not just be wasted.
Especially since they only kill one or two, and not every day. It replaces whales, they say.
In fact, 2/3 of what the fishing industry catches is turned into fish meal and used to feed pigs or chickens. That's a truly terrible waste of resources.
This man oversees the tradition. No one can butcher a whale or a dolphin without his approval. That's why he comes around first with a knife and makes 3 incisions in the animal. And only afterwards they can butcher it.
And the pieces will be handed out to all the hunters?
Right. See, there are 3 parts. This main part is for those who participated in the hunt. This part is for the person who owns the boat. And this part is for the different families. They're going to cut some for the children, the women, and so on.
The crew has the good fortune of being able to join one of their hunts. It's a codified ritual full of symbolism and myth.
You can see how basic the boat is. The equipment's extremely simple but effective. Bamboo poles to protect the harpoons, a small sail, and with this kind of boat they travel far out into the Savu Sea, 50 kilometers from land, to hunt big sperm whales. And they say that some boats have been dragged off by harpooned whales and never been seen again. It's like the old man in the sea, or Moby Dick.
But the harpooning isn't always a success. Like the fauna, these isolated populations have been forced to adapt to their surrounding environment. Hunting dolphins, manta rays or whales is their only means of survival. But they also show reverence to the animal spirit, Kotekema, whose origin has been lost to history.
These ancient peoples in Lamealera shared their history with me. They also spoke of Lubang Dunia, the whole of the world, a mysterious abyss where all life originated, found deep in the jungles of Borneo. It is one of these legends we'd so love to believe. What if it held the key to all this extraordinary biodiversity, the mystery of life?
Borneo, a fantasy island, an explorer's paradise, barely 3 hours by air from the Sunda Islands. The crew joins Georges Robert, who waits for them at the mouth of the Sungai Bai River.
It's a total change of scenery. The basalt has been replaced by limestone and the coral by jungle. We fly over the waves of a petrified sea.
These limestone ridges were formed on the ocean floors before shifting tectonic plates thrust them out of the water. Rainwater filters into this lost world, where huge chasms gape open and underground rivers flow secretly beneath the land. Georges Robert leads the way. He's been exploring these Kalimantan jungles for over 10 years.
Another 2 or 3 hours trek and we'll reach a place Georges knows, which was only discovered recently. It'll be like traveling far back in time, and it's a place which has never been filmed. What's that, Georges?
That's a tree you get curare from. They make a gash in the tree and the poison flows out. They collect it in bamboo and they bring it back to the village where they boil it, slowly adding water. After it dries, it forms a kind of paste.
And they coat the arrows in it.
Which is used for coating arrows, right.
That's how they hunt. Curare is a substance which in very small quantities is a tonic for the heart, but a strong dose will paralyze the respiratory system, which means you die of suffocation. It's not fatal if the victim is given mouth to mouth while the poison is acting. But it can't be much fun.
They say you can kill a man in 5 minutes.
These limestone ridges are shot through with caves. Far from the light of day, these sanctuaries harbour a different kind of biodiversity, a flora and fauna of the shadows.
Ah ouais. Oups, ça enfonce grave.
Wow, look at those bats. They're really big, much bigger than in Europe. Everything's bigger here. They found 27 new species in the caves of Borneo, I think.
Dans les grottes de Bornéo.
They're swarming all over the place. That's a jumping spider which lives in the caves. It doesn't spin a web. In fact, it's one of the rare predatory spiders which can jump, and its sight is as good as a human's. It has 6 eyes, I think, and it can focus on a prey at a distance of 30 times its own body length. In other words, if we come near the spider, it'll see us and it'll spring. But of course, it doesn't hunt humans. What does it eat here, in fact? Crickets? It's a real predator. We'll try to make it move. You can see it's a very fast mover. Obviously, it's a bit scary to be in the dark and know that there are spiders as big as crabs which could land on your head at any moment. You have to be very careful in any case, because a lot of species are venomous. In a way, it resembles a marine crustacean, and that's no coincidence, because the subterranean world is similar to the deep-sea world in many ways. This animal is perhaps distantly descended from a crustacean which lived in seawater and has now become adapted to this very particular environment.
I wouldn't want that thing jumping in my face. Be careful. Sometimes it eats bats. It bites them, kills them, and gobbles them up.
From bat to man is only a small step.
C'est passionnant. Il y en a partout. Hein. Oh ouais.
In the 1990s, several decorated caves were discovered in eastern Borneo. It's hard to put a date on these caves. Some date back several tens of thousands of years ago, and others are older still. After 3,000 kilometers and 3 weeks, the expedition draws to a close. The conclusion is clear. Indonesia is no doubt a cradle of some of the Earth's richest biodiversity, both on land and in the sea. It's the only place in the world you find so many elements crucial to the origins of life. A volcanic archipelago, the junctions of 2 oceans, a wealth of ecosystems. This exceptional configuration has led to the preservation of unique endemic species.
Unless, perhaps, the ultimate explanation lies down at the bottom of Lubang Dunia. The mythical chasm which we never did find. Does it even exist? Who knows? But one thing is for sure, we will be back. And it still remains to be understood how this rich marine life managed to gradually fertilize the oceans. How one day this point zero of biodiversity multiplied. But that's another story, another journey, another expedition perhaps.